Hello and good day. Welcome to today's webinar. I am very excited to hopefully help you find your dream home dental office for now and also for many years to come. This video is going to be directed more towards the dental assistant. And if you are not a dental assistant and you found this, I do have videos that are basically the same, but are directed towards a non-dental assistant. So front office and hygienist and office manager and associate, things like that. So if you want one that is directly for your position, if you are not a dental assistant, you can check out the links below and you can navigate that way. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going. Okay, so you have found the webinar today called Find Your Perfect Dental Office for the Dental Assistant. Your speaker, which is me, my name is Wendy Aldhamen. I have been in love with dentistry for the last 15 years as a dental assistant, I started out with, and then I became a manager. Now I'm a recruiter and a business owner. When I'm not hiring, I love constructing magnet tile towers with my kids. Even though they do prefer to knock them down, I also enjoy cooking and baking and crafting of way too many kinds. My mission deep down is to help with the hiring and the onboarding and the processes to foster long-term growth for you as the candidate and as for the office as well. I want to increase the longevity of team members being at offices. If you are new to dentistry, or if you've been in dentistry for a long time, this stat is something that I like to share with all people. 90% of new grads across the board, as in a dental assistant, as in a hygienist, as in an associate, 90% of new grads will only stay at their first office for a year or less. And I want to help change that. This video, I'm hoping to inform you of what you can say, what you can ask, and what you can do to help make sure you're getting into the right office the first time. Our course topics today, we're going to talk about pre-interviewing steps, what I will recommend for you to do before you even start the interviewing process. Number two, how to evaluate and what you should be evaluating about the office. Number three, your resume and how to present yourself. Number four, growth opportunities. And number five, where to look for these positions. Number one. So I would like you to write down these answers as we're going to go through these pre-interviewing, these non-negotiables. We'll get there in just a moment. But if you can write down examples, this would be very helpful for you. I suggest you to also write down what your non-negotiables are for a life partner as well. It really helped me in the past. It helps you to get past the, oh, this office or this partner is so amazing phase, right? And it really helps you to deep dive and make sure that you're hitting all of the points that you want to hit in the person or the office that you are going to want to be in. So the things that we're going to look at is, what are your must-have non-negotiables? Number two, what are you trying to avoid in an office? Number three, what benefits are you looking for? And four, what can you be flexible with? And we're going to talk about all of these points. So as a dental assistant, my non-negotiables might be, I personally want to work in a practice with two doctors, 1.5 plus assistants per doctor, two people up front, and then room for growth. And then hopefully with a lot of technology, either within the office or within my roles. I say technology with a dental assistant because you want to make sure that you're staying up to date, because there's a lot of technology going around in dentistry. And if you are not on the cusp of learning what that is, then you could just fall behind, and that's not what you want. Okay, what are you trying to avoid? So if I were interviewing as a dental assistant, I wouldn't want to drive more than 30 minutes. Maybe 30 minutes is totally fine for you. Maybe you want to say 10, maybe you want to say 15, maybe you want to walk to work, whatever that is. What are you trying to avoid? Try to make sure that you're also putting in your, what do you want to avoid if an office is wishy-washy with what they say, which is kind of hard. But when you're done with the interview process, I want you to reflect back on the interview and maybe take notes, or maybe just hit all of these points from your pre-interviewing stage to make sure that you are on the same track. The third thing that you want to avoid is somebody who is all about me. as the business owner. They should be asking questions about you, and where it's a little bit of a harder line to draw is when maybe it's a new practice or they have a lot of new things going on in the practice where they might talk, maybe not necessarily about them, but they're going to talk about the office or their vision or their mission. But they really should be asking good quality questions about you too, versus you just listening while you're in the interviewing process. Okay, number three, we're going to talk about benefits. So if I were a dental assistant looking, I would like dental included. I would like a retirement. I would like PTO, and I would like to have medical. Now, what can I be flexible on? I can be flexible on medical because I know not a lot of offices offer medical insurance. I can also be flexible on the days and the hours within reason. So the days and hours that you work, that might be different for you. Okay, some of your non-negotiables, you might be location, might be Google reviews, might be the days or the hours. So if you have to be out at 5 p.m. or you can't start until 9, what are your days and hours that you're willing to be flexible? Are you okay to be part-time or full-time and find two offices or just one office? And then do you want tech and digital in your office? Again, these non-negotiables, these are examples, but this is what would be very helpful for you to pay attention to. So this QR code, if you would like to scan it, will go to the sheets in the next 2 slides, as well as more information. All the questions that we're going to talk about in today's interview is going to be in that sheet. So feel free to scan that if you want to. And I can also put it in the description box of this video as well. So let's talk about Google reviews. Obviously, location, that is kind of self-explanatory, but why do you want to look at Google reviews? Would you be proud to work at that place that you're working at? So I would highly suggest you to Google the office, not just click on a link that has the website, to actually Google it. Maybe even put it into maps. If you're on a desktop computer, you probably are going to be able to find everything that you want to. Why I say put it in Google Maps is because if you're using your phone, sometimes Yelp doesn't always come up, but that's what you're going to see if you're using Google Maps. Is the Yelp review on there. So if you see that there's really poor reviews and a lot of them, would you want to get your work done? Would you want to refer your family or your friends there? Are you going to be proud to work at this office, right? Those are some things to pay attention to. So this is what I would do if I was looking for a new job. These are the pre-interviewing questions where you would basically fill this out if you were looking, and you can kind of check the boxes off. So like I said, this is a link that you can get, so you can check like, yes, this is what I want. No, this is not what I want. And then how many yeses and nos or I don't knows do you have in here, so that you can ask more quality questions. And then I would put all of the contact information in here so that I don't lose it. I know that there's been a lot of times me as a recruiter, that I will be talking to somebody and then I will reach back out because they hadn't said anything in a little while. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I lost your phone number. So think about that ahead of time. Just try to keep all of the information in one spot. Okay. And remember, interviewing is a two-way street. You can ask them any and all questions that you want to ask. Don't be hesitant. You're going to be working here for full-time or part-time, whatever you want, but you want to make sure that it's going to be a good fit. So here are my interviewing structure questions. And so number one, we're going to talk about practice overview, philosophy, and also including staff turnover. Number two, what are their expectations and your responsibilities? Number three, what kind of compensation and benefits can I expect? Number four, growth options. Number five, the personal fit and the team culture of the practice. And then number six, some legal and contractual questions, which I want you to stick around for because they're going to be important. Although a lot of times as a dental assistant, you don't necessarily have to worry about it. But if you come into if you come into contact with an office where you have to think about these things, this is going to be a good opportunity for you to pay attention. So before we get into the next slides with the questions listed, remember that You have to understand the why behind these questions being asked. If you ask a question and you don't know why you're asking it, then don't ask the question. Not all of the questions that I'm going to present today, you're going to have to ask. They're not all going to be applicable for you or the size practice that you are talking to or your situation, even maybe your state, because every state is different on what you can and cannot do. So make sure that you're actually paying attention to the questions that are being asked. If you don't understand it, it doesn't make sense to you, don't ask it. Okay, so our first point is practice and overview philosophy. A question that I would have you ask is, what does the schedule look like? How many doctors and how many other dental assistants will I be working with? I think that was pretty self-explanatory. Why I say look at the schedule, because if they can even show you the schedule, even better. Because there are some times where people will get into an office and they're like, I had no idea that it was going to be this busy. I am working with 4 doctors and I'm one assistant, or even 2 doctors as one assistant. That is really hard and that is really stressful. You are basically just doing sterilization all day long. You're cleaning and you are setting up and breaking down, and that's all you get to do, because if you're working with 2 or 3 or 4 doctors and you're the only assistant, that's what life is going to be like. The second question, will I have a column or a room that I will have or that I will bounce back and forth between 2 doctors or 2 different rooms? And what does that look like? What is your standard of care for x-rays and perio charting and using a 3D scanner like an iTero or taking intraoral photos? So this is going to help you to see if there's unrealistic expectations for the office. Perio charting should be every year. X-rays or bite wings are typically every year to every 2 years. FMX is every 3 to 7 years, depending on the practice. An iTero scanner might be every 6 to 12 months, but is it something that's unrealistic? And how fast do they want you to do that, to use that scanner? I think 3 to 5 minutes is pretty average. If it takes you 10 minutes, then make sure that you are transparent with that they know ahead of time that you might be a little slower with the scanner if you're new, for example. My next point here, what does it look like to see new patients? I think this is really great, and there can be many answers here, but I think that this is a really great question because new patients are going to be imperative to the office, as well as like, how are you treating those people? How long are the new patient appointments? And if it's an emergency, obviously that's a different situation, but are the new patients going into hygiene for 60 minutes and expected to do a new patient exam, as well as an FMX, as well as a periochart, as well as a 3D scan and a cleaning? Like, that to me is not the quality of care that I would want to work in, even if I'm not doing the new patients, even if that's on hygiene. That's not the quality of care that I would want. And so you can kind of see some things like that in the schedule. So kind of goes to my next point. How long are your typical prophies and your new patients? Questions that don't necessarily seem like they're super relevant as a dental assistant because that's in hygiene, they are extremely relevant to the big picture, to the practice overview. What are you most proud of within this business? If they kind of waffle and don't necessarily have an answer, or they say, well, it's a business, I'm happy that it's running, just be really cautious, because you want to work with somebody who's enthusiastic and angelic and somebody who oozes the love of dentistry just as much as you do. You want to be proud where you work, and you want them to be proud where they work too. Last question here. What is your management style? Or sometimes, this question makes sense here. Does your office manager oversee everything? Sometimes an office manager will oversee everything. So when I was the office manager, I basically did everything within the practice. And if there was anything that cost over like $5,000, then I would say, hey, doctor, this is what I want to buy. This is what I want to do. This is why. And he'd say, okay, go ahead. I was very proud of that, very thankful for that, and it allowed him to do the dentistry. So, if you have different thoughts on the management style, if you don't want the manager to oversee everything, then that's a question that you could ask. And now, another point that I didn't put in here that you may want to ask, you may want to consider is, do you have any family members working in the practice? That could be sometimes people say that that's not a good thing. Some people don't care at all. And so just depending on that, that's another question that I apologize I should have in there, but I forgot to add that in there. Expectations and responsibilities for you. How quickly are you hoping that I'm integrated into the office and fully up to speed? Now, if you are a new grad, this might be hard for them to answer. If you've been an assistant for a long time, then this is something that they should be able to have a pretty good understanding of what that would look like, unless they've had an assistant and or the assistants that they do have that they've had for many, many years, then they might not necessarily have a good answer. What is your onboarding process for the first 30 days? This is, in my opinion, very important because about a third of people that leave their office in the first 90 days is due to the onboarding process or a mismatch of the personalities within leadership and within the employee. Can you tell me about responsibilities outside of clinical work that I'm going to have? So, are you going to have to do social media? Are you going to have to take out the trash and sweep the floors? Are you going to have to do lab work? Are you going to have to call patients if your schedule falls apart? A lot of these things are, yeah, sure, you're going to be a team player and that's great, but you just want to make sure that you don't have the longest list of responsibilities in the entire office. You want to make sure that they are responsibilities that make sense. Now, if you're going to have to call patients to get them into the schedule, that's okay. That's totally okay. Just make sure that that's not something that you're going to have to do all the time, that that's just like a miscellaneous portion on your responsibilities list. My fourth question here, what do you think would be most challenging within these responsibilities for me? For me, uh, they might have a hard time answering that if they just are getting to know you. And then my last question here, you mentioned that you have, let's say, a CAD CAM, a same day milling unit. What would the training on that look like for me? Maybe you've never used CAD CAM. Maybe you've never used this machine. That depends on you, of course. So ask, what does the training look like? Is it like, do I have to go to training? Is one of the employees going to train me? Is the doctor going to train me? Also, I want to mention, I don't think that I had mentioned it a few slides back, but you're not necessarily going to ask all of these questions in the phone interview. Some of these questions you're going to ask when you are in person. Some are going to be during or after a working interview. Some are going to be at the opportunity where you get the offer letter. So be understanding of these. Write these questions down that you think are going to be most applicable for you and bring them to the office depending on what stage you're in. Compensation and benefits. I want you to take note on the way that I say this question, because it's very important the way that you say it, in my opinion. Could I get clarity about benefits you offer? I saw on the ad that you offer maybe medical, dental, and retirement. Could you tell me more about medical? Why I say ask it that way, because people often will say, what benefits do you offer? And it's like, you saw the ad, you applied to the job, so ask it this way. Could I get clarity on the benefits that you offer? I saw that you offered blah, 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 blah. Could you tell me more about X? And then my next point is how does it look like for continuing education within your company? Do I have a cap? And how much time am I allotted per year for continuing education? Where do your team members currently get their CE from? Now, I always encourage people to ooze the love of dentistry, to always want to learn, to always want to grow. And this is a question that shows the office that you want to grow, that you want to do the best that you can, not only for you, but also for the office, also for your team members, also for the patients. So maybe they already have a platform that the team members currently use for their continuing education. Is that something that you've already gotten all the CE from that you can, right? Like Spear Education, for example, or Dental Flicks. Like where is this education coming from? And are you on board with it? So, for example, I had worked with an office that uses MGM for their coaching, their consulting. And some of the candidates that I interviewed said, absolutely not. I will not work for an office that works with MGM. There's other people that say, I will not work with an office that uses a consulting company. I don't agree with that. I think that there's always room to grow and different things that you can understand from different kinds of practices, but that is what they believed. That is what they wanted. So keep those things in mind, okay? My next question is, what is the pay range for this role? Now, that might already be on the job ad, so pay attention to the way that you ask these questions, okay? This is another question that you can kind of add in there depending on like, do you want to ask this question or do you want to ask this bottom question? If I were to work here for say 5+ years and acquire many more skills, do you currently have a pay scale or structure or max amount that I could earn in the long-term future with these added skills? They might kind of look at you a little bit funny, potentially, maybe not, who knows? But why I say it that way is because let's say that you are a newer grad, but you are just wanting to eat up all of the education, all of the knowledge that you possibly can, and you want to be at X amount of dollars, $30 an hour, let's just say. If you want to be at $30 an hour, how long is it going to take you to get there? What kind of skills does it take you to get there? And maybe even say, like, I know that right now I'm starting at $25 an hour, but I would like to be at $30 an hour. How long will it take me to get there? And what will it take me to get there? Let's make a game plan. This shows to the office that you are ready and willing and wanting to take on more in your role. Now, if you don't want to, that's okay. It just depends on how you ask that question. All right, our next point that we're going to talk about is growth options. What can I do to excel at my job? Or if you could pick and choose what the best dental assistant would look like here, please paint that picture for me. If you were to ask that for me as what's the best dental assistant that you've ever worked with, I could absolutely paint that picture for you from start to finish. I would say she is very fun and friendly, but not super outgoing, not super loud. She is very thoughtful. She doesn't have to be asked many times to do something. And if she does, it's because her brain was like completely overloaded. So you don't have to ask her many times to do something. She takes charge of things. She's very well organized. She sees, if there's a hole in my schedule, what makes most sense? Do we already have a lot of production for the day? And within that maybe 1 hour hole with somebody canceled, maybe she's going to take the opportunity to clean up in the back or to reorganize or to go through things. Or if there's not a lot of production in the day, and there's an hour missing, maybe she's going to talk to hygiene and say, hey, we have an hour missing. If you have any patients that need to come see us, or do you have any family members that need to come in, maybe with that mom or with that dad or with that brother, right? What does that look like? So that's the best dental assistant for me. Maybe that's going to be different for the office that you work at. Okay, second question here. Thinking of the future and potential growth opportunities, do you plan to add any services in the next few years? Are you planning to add any clinical team members in the next 1 to 5 years? Clinical team members, as in like, are you going to add another associate? And if you're in a one doctor practice, you're going to have a second associate. Does that, depending on their speed, does that mean you're only going to get one more assistant, or are you going to have 1.5 assistants? So you're going to have 3 total assistants. If you have 2 doctors I would highly suggest to have 1.5 assistants. One, because that takes the stress off of you if you need to take a day off and if somebody gets sick, or you don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off if you're having to work with two doctors if the other assistant's sick. There's a myriad of reasons why, of course, that's a good idea, but just a good thought for you to think about. Or if they want to add services in the next few years, maybe it's sleep apnea. And this one assistant is going to basically be doing everything for sleep apnea. Are you going to have to add a clinical team member for that? That depends on how much the doctor wants to take over, how much the assistant wants to take over, and kind of that information combined. All right, my fourth question here. How often are reviews conducted to help me grow in my role here? Some offices don't really do reviews. Some offices do reviews annually, every single year, and that's when you're going to get a bonus, or not a bonus, I'm sorry, a pay raise sometimes, and sometimes it's just to help you understand where you're at. In my opinion, I teach offices, I tell offices, I encourage offices to um, do reviews for a new employee, let's say at 30 days, at 60 days, at 90 days, at 6 months, and at 12 months. Reviews are not meant to be scary. Reviews are meant to help everybody involved to be the best person that they can be. We're all wanting to grow and be a good member of the office, right? All right. Now, if you're wondering what this is over here, these are potential growth opportunities that you as an assistant can do depending on what your state allows and what you need to do for that. Okay. So can you do any of these extra these positions or any of these extra roles? Like a dental product trainer, you're probably not going to want to do that or talk about that if you are interviewing at an office. But these are things that you could potentially grow into. So what different kinds of services are potentially going to be added, where then maybe you could become a dental lab tech, or maybe you could become a 3D printing specialist, or you could become a dental software sales or trainer, right? These are a lot of different things that you could potentially do that could help you in the long run, maybe in the office and then after the office, after you've outgrown the office potentially. Okay, questions about personal fit and team culture. What are your ideal qualities in an assistant? That's a similar question to, if you could pick and choose what the best dental assistant would look like here, paint that picture. Same kind of question, just depends on how you want to ask the question. What are your ideal qualities in an assistant? My next question here is, why is the position open? That's an excellent question. Now, and maybe you might even want to ask, how many times have you had to hire for this position in the last 1 to 3 to 5 years? That question is something that you want to maybe think about if there's a lot of turnover in the practice. Maybe you can even ask, what does the turnover look like in the office? Where that question is a little bit down the line here, but we'll address that here too. And then maybe ask, why do you love working here? Like I said earlier, if they're waffling on that, is that something that you want them to waffle on? Like I would want whoever is interviewing for this position, I would want them to love working at the practice. And why do they love it? What is the benefit of working at the practice? Another question that's very similar, what is great about the working culture here? Right? It shouldn't just be things that they're just pulling out of thin air. If you would like, this is where you can go and look and actually read the Google reviews. What are the patients saying comparatively to what is the doctor saying or the hiring manager? Are they just trying to convince you that this is going to be the best opportunity, but really it's not? Who knows, right? That's why we're asking these questions. And then what is the longevity of the team members look like at your practice? That's similar to why is the position open, but more for the entirety of the practice. Now, be mindful that during COVID, I did a poll of, I think, 100 offices, and 2 offices said that they had zero turnover. Zero turnover. That's 2%, right? That is a drastic difference from what I'm used to seeing. There's hardly any offices that tell me, no, I haven't had any turnover. And the people that do tell me that, then I find when I'm working with them, oh, you did have turnover, you just lied. And that's not the kind of office that I want to work with, right? So ask that question and ask maybe they're going to talk about pre and post COVID, and that's okay. Be understanding most offices had turnover. You probably had turnover either for yourself or in your practice too. The second to last question here, who will be my support person or people if I need anything in the first 30 days? Are you going to have to rely on only the doctor? Do you have a lead dental assistant? Is there maybe a clinical lead and maybe that's a hygienist that you're going to talk with? Okay. What do you or the company do within the community? Do you want to do some volunteering? Do you want, like, if you're going to go to a specialty office, like an ortho office, for example, do you get to be the person who goes into the other offices around town and give them baked goods and give them little prizes, give them little things? Do you want to do that? Do you not? Totally up to you. Onboarding questions. Would you like me to come back for a shadow day or a skills assessment or a working interview? And do you have a different amount of pay for working interviews than what I would be paid if you hired me? So let's talk about that second question here first, because that is a shorter little bit that I'm going to explain. I worked with an office once that didn't tell me until it was time to schedule a working interview that when I scheduled the working interview that they were requesting, so I don't know that I remember the numbers, but they were requesting 20 or $22 an hour, but the office was said, we're only going to pay you $15 an hour. And I was like, well, why is that? And they said, well, we're not getting $22 an hour work out of them. We're not even really getting 15, but we have to pay them. And I was like, whoa, wait a second. So if you ever have a sub in your practice, you pay them less? That does not make sense, right? So I told them all of the reasons why to not do that. I talked to the doctor, I talked to the owner, I talked to the manager, and I was like, this is the silliest thing that I've ever heard. I don't think you should do this. And this really just reflects on the quality of what is going to be produced out of this office. That's not the way to do interviewing. In my opinion, if you're okay with that, that's fine. But that's, in my opinion, I think a very poor way to go about interviewing. Okay, going back to the first question. Would you like me to come back for a shadow day, skills assessment, or working interview? If you're a new grad, sure, they might want you to come in for a working interview or a skills assessment, maybe. But if you are a new grad or maybe somebody who has never been in dentistry, a shadow day is probably going to be more beneficial for you. A skills assessment is, so like, what's the difference between them? So a shadow day, you don't put gloves on. You don't help them do anything. You are just observing. You're writing notes down. You're asking questions where there's no patients that can hear you, right? A skills assessment is maybe you're assisting to do a filling or a crown on one of the employees, or maybe one of the family members of the employees where the office is not getting paid to do it. They're not getting paid for that filling or for that crown. And then a working interview is you are literally coming in basically as a sub assistant for that day to work with the office in that capacity. Okay, my next question here. At this time, do you have any reservations on me or my abilities? Is there anything I can clarify for you about my qualifications? Is there anything else I can provide you that would be helpful going forward? So this is going to be a question that you are going to do either after, depending on their interview style. So for me, we do a phone interview, a Zoom interview, then you go to meet the office, or maybe do a working interview, skills assessment, shadow day, whatever that looks like. And then the office typically will hire you, or maybe they'll want to meet a second time. Usually it's those 3 interview stages. Okay. So that's where if you were working with me, I would probably say when you meet the office in person, that's where I would say, do you have any reservations on me or my abilities? And be open, be candid, allow them to give you constructive criticism, because this is not only going to help you understand, like, do I have a running here? Or are there other people that might be better fit for this practice, for this position? Okay. Maybe do you have any reservations on me? Like, okay, well, you don't have as much technology understanding as what we would like, but that's where you can clarify. You can say, if you think that I'm the person for your office, in the 2 weeks that I have to give my office notice for me to leave, I will be committed 1 hour at least every day for the next 2 weeks for me to sit down, watch videos if you have any videos for me to watch, or I will just YouTube them on technology that you have in your practice. I am fully committed from now until I start at your practice for me to research and understand CAD CAM so that when I get into the practice, it's going to be so much easier to transition, right? I've had people say, do you have any reservations? And I flat out tell them what their problem is, in my opinion, for this practice, and they completely kibosh it. And that question can be the make or break difference for you to start or not start at a practice. Excellent question to ask. One of my favorite questions when people ask me, what next steps can I anticipate in your hiring process? And do you have an anticipated start date for this position? Anticipated start date, some people will say, yeah, we can have you start tomorrow. But some people might say, well, this is actually going to be starting for a maternity. And then, starting when the dental assistant has to go out on maternity and she's not planning to come back or something like that. So, do you have an anticipated start date? And what next steps can I anticipate? I had already told you we do a phone interview, a Zoom interview, and then you get to meet the office. So, those are the steps that we take here at Career Elevation, but every office is slightly different. And then, do you have flexibility in your schedule for me to start at, say, 9 a.m. instead of 8 a.m.? If so, how many other team members do this as well? I like to ask that second question because if you are the only one that starts late and you're the new person, might there be some animosity there? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're completely fine with that and everybody is okay with you starting at 9. Everybody is okay with starting at different times in the day. That depends on your comfortability level for you to come in an hour later. And, can you stay late a day or two? Can you come early a day or two? What does that look like for you and you potentially working at this practice that you're gonna work at? Okay, so let's talk about, those were all of the interview questions that you can ask. Let's talk about how you can present yourself. How can you set yourself aside from the others? And then also, what do you need to do to come prepared with the interview questions? So, how well are you dressed? I would say overdressing is always a better option. And if you're wondering, like, does this look good on me? Should I wear this item of clothing? Should I wear these pants? Should I wear this top? Are these pants too tight? If you're asking yourself, does this look professional enough? It probably doesn't. And go change, find something else. I know we always, maybe not always. I know I fluctuate with weight. Anything that is going to be more conservative, go that route. Conservative and professional is going to be something that's going to be your friend in this situation. And then do whatever you can to wear dress clothes instead of scrubs, even if you're coming from class or even if you're coming from the office. Take 5 minutes, factor in 5 minutes of a drive time or 10 minutes additional drive time for you to get from your office to the office that you're interviewing for. If this is after work, for example, factor in 10 minutes so you can go to a gas station, you can change your clothes, you can fix your hair a little bit, and you can look presentable. I preach this when I'm talking to offices that they need to look their best, that this is the best that you, when you go to an interview, this is the best that you should look. So if you're looking disheveled from working, that's how they think that you are going to present yourself every single time you go into the office. So do whatever you need to do. Do your hair a little bit different, go change your clothes, whatever that looks like, but don't come in looking disheveled. And then show the confidence that you have. in the interviewing process, which trust me, I know nobody really likes the interviewing process, which is why I make these videos because I want to help you to be the best person that you can be. So be as confident as you can be without being cocky. There's definitely a difference there. Have a can-do attitude. The office is going to be looking for somebody who is coachable and trainable and moldable. Show them that that is you. Show them that you can do that. And then coming prepared for the interview questions, think ahead of time of real life examples that you can give from either clinics or from your office. So some questions that they might ask you is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Think about that beforehand, before you go into the interview. Maybe even put into ChatGPT, like what kind of a good strengths and weaknesses can I use as a dental assistant going into this office? Make sure that they are actually yours, but have ChatGPT give you good examples and have it kind of coach you through this process too. Maybe the question they might ask you is, what is your greatest professional achievement? And maybe that could just be a patient interaction, and that is totally fine. It can just be, I had a really, really great experience with a patient, and they gave me a 5-star review. And then the next time they came in, and the next 5 years they came in, they praised me on that one time. And I was just doing my job, right? What is your greatest professional achievement? I know I like in my office right now, I'm looking at a little gift that I got from a patient that I love the fact that a patient thought of me when he went back to his home country. He brought something back for me and he said, you touched my heart the way that you worked with me, and I'm so grateful for you. I know that this is just a small token, but please have this. And it means blah, 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 blah. Like in my home country, this is what this means. So that was something that was extra special for me. That's just one example that you can give if you have an experience like that. Another question that they might ask is, what are you passionate about? They could ask you, so if I'm interviewing you, I would ask, what are you passionate about outside of dentistry, if you feel comfortable sharing with me? And that does not have to mean kids, right? You don't have to tell them that you have kids. You don't have to tell them if you have a partner or a spouse or a nothing. You don't have to have anything. You can say, what are you passionate about? Maybe you're passionate about books. Maybe you're passionate about cooking or going out to restaurants or traveling. You can be passionate about crafting, maybe. There's a lot of different, you could be passionate about sports, right? You can be passionate about a lot of different things that don't have to give away your age, your gender, your ethnicity, if you are or are not a parent, because those are all questions that they cannot legally ask you. So you can completely avoid that and say, maybe you're just passionate about dentistry. Outside of working at a practice, I love dentistry. I love being in Facebook groups talking about dentistry. That is what I focus a lot of my time on. And that's okay. That's okay. Another question that they might ask you is, how do you help alleviate an angry patient? What steps do you take to calm them down? Obviously, this can be a real life example, but that's a question to think about. How would you describe yourself? This is similar to like, what are your strengths and weaknesses, but how would you describe yourself? And if you don't know how to describe yourself, if you don't think you are going to do a good job describing yourself, then ask yourself, what would my friends or family say about me? That's how you would describe yourself. And tell me about a time where work made a decision that you didn't agree with. And this question, it can be a little shaky. So I would say, when something is made, a decision is made at work, maybe I don't have a choice about it. But if I don't think that it's going to be good for myself or the patients or for the office, then I will do research and I will say, hey, doctor, hey, decision maker, I don't think that that's a great idea, but here's some other solutions. Could we talk about that? Right? That's the way that they would want you to word that answer. And then another question, sorry. What would you do if you had a long appointment cancel in your day or no call, no show in your schedule. We already kind of discussed that, talked about that, where if there's already a lot of production, maybe you would clean or reorganize, maybe you would restock. If there's no production in the day, maybe you would go to the other operatories and say, "Hey, I am going to need some production put into my schedule. If you have anything, or if you know of any family members that I could take that we could call and have them come in at the same time." Those are two excellent answers that you could give in that situation. So, coming prepared with questions directly about their office are also going to be some really great things to think about too. So, look at their website and their social medias, look at their reviews. If you can also look up their exact address and tell them that you've already looked into all of this before you get into the interviewing process, that is going to make them feel like you are prepared. They want to feel that you are the only office that you're applying to. Now, don't lie and say that they are, right? But make them feel special. Try to feel like you are they want to try to feel like they're that, oh my goodness gracious. They're trying to make it seem like you are the only person that they're interviewing as well. So why not flip it and do the same thing for them? That's just going to make you look better. All right, now presenting yourself about your resume, your cover letter, your thank yous, and your follow-ups. I will have an example in the next two slides of what your resume and your cover letter should look like, as well as your references. So we're going to talk about a few things, and then we're going to switch in so I can show you those examples. So bring a pen when you're going into an interview. Bring a pen, bring a paper. Don't take notes on your phone. I would highly suggest you to print off and bring your resume, print off and bring your cover letter, as well as your references. If you can, bring all of this in a folder and say, or like paperclip it maybe, but if you can bring it in a folder, when you get there, you can say, "I've printed off my resume, cover letter, and my references. Would you like a copy?" And then they can have it too. If you can bring everything in a pad folio, so you don't need to bring in a purse, you don't have to have everything like maybe in your pockets. You're gonna have everything in a pad folio. That's in the best case scenario, bring a pad folio if you can. I like to give this example, which it is relevant, but it's also like, how many people are doing this? I don't know. But I've heard more than one person say that if a candidate does not bring a pen to an interview, they will be eliminated because they're not being ready in case there's an application. They're having to ask for a pen, right? Where, yeah, that might be very trivial, but they're trying to make sure that you are very detail oriented, that you are very prepared and you are ready to take on an office. Now, if you're like, forget that, that's okay. You don't have to work for an office that is like that. That is okay. Okay. And then thank you emails can be prepared before you go into an office if you know that you're going to have a busy day. Leave it in your email draft or like on notes in your phone, depending on how you're going to send it. And then send it right when you leave the office, right? So edit that email draft and right when you get back out to your car and or within a few hours, within 24 hours, I would say send the thank you. That is going to show them how responsible and poignant you are. Okay. And what else here? If you need help with your thank you or your follow-up, put it into ChatGPT. I know that I've mentioned that a few times already. I use ChatGPT like it's my best friend that knows more than I do. So give it the job listing, give it your resume, give it what you want out of an office, give it your non-negotiables, and work with it, right? Say create an email follow-up thanking the office for me being able to meet there. Now, of course, you have to look it over and make any edits, but that's a starting point. If you are struggling figuring out what you should say other than "thank you for letting me come to the practice," have ChatGPT help you out with that. It's your best friend. It's my best friend. It's not really my best friend, but basically. Okay, now this is what I would say a cover letter and a resume should look like. I know it might be a little bit difficult to see on your screen, but if printed out, you'll be able to see this really well. So I have right here as on a diagonal and on this one as well, It's green on the top half and white on the bottom half. Why I like it to look like that is because everything is basically copy paste at the top and at the bottom. Okay. So they are going to see this and they're going to immediately see, okay, this cover letter goes to this resume. They don't have to double think about it. They can see it's just a visual cue and it's very eye-catching and fluid. And so they're going to know, okay, this cover letter goes to this resume. I read this cover letter and I remember feeling this way. And now I can look at this resume and attach that feeling to the rest of the information about that individual. I used to recommend for people to put their photo on the resume. However, I no longer do that because they can have automatic biases to you. And you don't want to be automatically discounted or excluded because of what you look like. So don't give them a reason to say no just by looking at your resume before they even get to meet you. Okay, what some things are that I would suggest where people tend to not necessarily know in my answer, or excuse me, in my experience, the right answer, which resumes, there's not really a right or wrong answer a lot of times, but I would say never put your exact address. So I live in Diamondale and I would put Diamondale on here. I would not put my exact address. I would not put any links to social media or LinkedIn on here. Some resume writers will tell you to do that, but that's where then you're allowing them to go see what you look like. And we're trying to avoid that. I would also suggest you to leave off the year of high school graduation. So here I have my history, but I just say that I'm a hygienist. I don't say what what year that I graduated. If you are a hygienist or if you are an assistant and you went to school and then you have plenty of work history, you don't need to put high school in here. They are 99% sure that you went to high school. If you have a GED, that's totally fine too. You don't need to put that information on there. They are looking at you and your work history, okay? And also know that Indeed resumes are 90% of the time wrong. So if you can update and upload your resume, that will look best. Okay. That's just something that I have learned over time. And if you can print this off and say, this is the resume that I have, because I know Indeed isn't always correct, I want to make sure you have the most updated and accurate resume, if it is correct or if it's not. But that's what I would say. I would also have my references look very similar. I would say, this is Dr. Sternocleidomastoid, and he was the owner at Dr. Sternocleidomastoid, and maybe Dr. Stephen King. He was an associate dentist at Dr. Stephen Laura's practice, right? So these are all really great things to put on here. If you want to put on their cell phone number, so then like for us, we personally at Career Elevation, we like to text the references. We know that they're probably working. We know that they're probably doing important things at their practice. So we like to text them. And we will also call them too, but if we can text them just to schedule a time to contact, that is going to be best. Okay, let's talk about a little bit about negotiating skills and pay. While money is really important, finding the right job is even more important. This is the reason why negotiating your skills and pay is like all the way at the end of these slides, right? We're almost done with the webinar today. So what can you negotiate and maybe what you might not be able to? We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then maybe a little bit about what the offer letters look like, some non-competes, contracts, and backgrounds. So like I mentioned, I would highly suggest you to not go for the highest bidder or the highest offer amount. What office is going to have most or all of your non-negotiables, or you're flexible, or what are you looking for in a practice, right? So what office is more well put together? What makes more sense? Where do you see yourself growing? Not just for today, but where do you see yourself in the next 5 years or 10 years? If you get one offer, you are likely going to get more offers. this, you can be patient. Hopefully, depending on the situation you're in, hopefully you can be patient in the practice that you are currently in so that you can have a good experience finding another office. So start earlier than later, okay? And I will also say never accept an offer letter, never accept a position on the spot. And always give it at least 24 hours. If you have another interview in a few days, then say, tell the office that you got the offer letter to. I have an interview scheduled on Thursday or whatever day. I have an office scheduled on these days, and I would really like to give that office the same respect that I gave to you by going to their practice since I already have the interview scheduled. If the office that you are interviewing or telling that to, if they don't respect that and they say, okay, well, we're not interested anymore, then that office was not right for you. That's how I look at it. When offices that I'm working with say something along those lines, I will say that is the silliest thing that I've ever heard. Don't do that ever again, please. Those candidates need to make sure that they are not going to regret not going to that other interview. They are there to make sure that they are getting the right person in the office, just like you are trying to make sure that you're going to get the right office for you. Understand that the office might need somebody ASAP, and you might be reaching them really early, and they might also have other candidates that are going to come into the practice, and they might be all looking at other candidates as well. You can continue looking too, right? Being confident in the interviewing process is incredibly important as long as you're not arrogant. So let's talk a little bit about negotiating. When you're asking questions to negotiate, try not to negotiate over text or email. In person is best, even though I know that that's really scary. Try to do it if you can in person. Second best is on the phone. Third best is via email. I would say that third best is probably not best. It's probably not the greatest, but yes, it's scary. However, this is transactional for them. This seems really big and scary for you, but it's not super big and scary for them. They're wanting the same thing that you want. They want a team member. You want a job. You both want to make sure that it's the right place for the right situation, for the right pay, for the right benefits. So when they're offering you $23 an hour and you've already said you want to make 25, then you can say, thank you so much for offering that $23 an hour. I really have to have $25 an hour. That is a non-negotiable for me. And then be silent. Silence after you ask a question can make or break the next sentences, right? I recently heard a great quote, right? Silence is a higher level of sales. So you're trying to sell yourself to the office in a sense. You're trying to sell your services. You're trying to sell what you have to offer. Be silent. You don't have to convince them. I'm sorry, you do have to convince them of your current traits and experiences and attributes of why you're worth that amount that you're looking for. This is what I bring to the table. Never say when you're asking for an amount, never say, I need $25 an hour because I'm a single mother or I'm head of household. They don't care about that. They care about what you can bring to the practice or where you're planning to grow, not what you need to make. You show them what you are worth. And then maybe if they're like, okay, $23 an hour, if you can negotiate, can we revisit that? And where do you want me to be at in 90 days so that I can be at $25 an hour? And does that look realistic to you? So, non-competes, this is not something a lot, and contracts are not something that dental assistants have to worry too much about. I do have a webinar on my website talking all about contracts. Again, it's more for associates, but if you want to listen in and or go to the slides that's recorded so you can see just like this one. You can look at the information about non-competes and contracts. And then background checks, a lot of times it's either immediate background check that comes back or it takes 2+ weeks, depending on the county that you live in. Okay. We talked a little bit about some onboarding earlier. So go ahead and take a screenshot if you want to. There's a lot of information on here, and I'm not gonna go through each of them directly because these are just some things that you could potentially expect during onboarding and starting at an office. Go ahead and familiarize yourself with them now and with the software that they're working with, the location of the instruments. Familiarize yourself with the team members and the patients for the day. That's like when you are going in to the office for the first time, either for a working interview or whatever that looks like. Okay. Familiarize yourself with what the office is like on the inside. Okay. Ask the office for OSHA and HIPAA and emergency situation information on the first day or while doing a working interview. Try to get somebody's cell phone number in case something happens to you. If you need to come in early, like if they say they want you to be there at 7:30 in the morning, be there at 7:15. If there is somebody who's going to be there, ask, can I step in and look at my room beforehand just to familiarize myself again for the day, just to kind of get your last minute jitters out. Some government documents that you're going to need or look at is an I-9, a W-4. Maybe you need some licensing. You're going to need your driver's license. Do you have your CPR? Do you have your Hep B? Do you have malpractice? As a dental assistant, highly unlikely that you're going to have malpractice, but this will all help you to put everything into the payroll system. Make sure that you bring water. You bring snacks, you have a lunch. You don't know if they're going to have a good water. And trust me, maybe not trust me. I don't know. I like good water. And so make sure that you're able to keep yourself hydrated, that you have snacks. Some offices don't have much of a break room. So what does that look like, right? Make sure that you are aware of that when you are going, like doing your walkthrough before you accept a position. What does that place look like? Do they have a fridge? What does lunch need to look like for you the first day? I have a really long checklist that I give to the offices for onboarding and starting at a practice. If you need examples, if you need more information, you're welcome to let me know. I'm happy to send that to you. But ultimately, they really should be helping you and guide you through the onboarding and the starting stages. But if you want to feel more prepared, you're welcome to send me a message. I'm happy to help. All right, growth opportunities for a dental assistant. I had this in a slide a few slides back, but these are some different things that you can grow into as a dental assistant and maybe in the practice that you're at. So for example, can you create an in-house lab where you not only make crowns for your office, but for other offices too? Can you create an in-house dental assisting course? Is that something that you're passionate about? Is that something that would generate money for the office? Right? Those are things that you could potentially do. All of these are, depending on your state and your abilities and your education and where you're going to be going. Where are you going to search and find jobs? These are all of the different places. Well, I mean, there's probably more too, but these are a lot of really great places that you can start to try to find jobs. Some of these are sub jobs. So if you're interested in subbing, you can go to Cloud or Temp Me, which is now GoTo, or Scalar Gig or Indeed, or I have a sub list if you're in Michigan. It is for all of Michigan for all positions. But if you want to sub at different offices before you accept a position, that's completely understandable. Have an office, if you have an office that you've always wanted to work at, that you've always wanted to learn more about, give them a call. It can be really flattering to an office if you say like, hey, I am a dental assistant and I have 5 years of experience. And since I've been in dentistry, I have always really admired all of the stuff that you guys post on social media. You guys seem like a really fun loving practice. Do you have a dental assisting position open right now? That's a fantastic thing to hear if you're a practice. That is so flattering. You can also talk to anybody local that you know in dentistry or out of dentistry, and I mean anybody too. Ask your friends or your family members, what dentist do you go to? And one, do you like them? Do you think they do a good job? And then two, does it seem like they're having a good time at work? And if they are, go see if you can find a job at those offices. Call them up directly or go to their website and see if they have a careers page. You can ask me. You can ask any dental reps as well. Ask any of your teachers if they know of anybody who is hiring. There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of jobs on LinkedIn as well. Sometimes you can even find jobs on TikTok. That one, to me, it would be a little bit harder, but maybe I just don't know how to use TikTok to find that, but who knows? Okay. Remember that not every position is right for every person, and that is okay. Don't be a pick me girl or a pick me boy, whatever the saying is, right? Um, just know that the position that is right for you will come around, and I highly suggest you to take your time looking for the position in the office that you really want. Thank you so, so much. I know that this was a little bit over an hour, but I wanted to fit in all of the information and I didn't want to cut it short to just fit it into an hour. So thank you so much for the opportunity to have me potentially help you um, find a job. I love, love, love helping people find the right job that is for them. So if you need extra help, if you need more webinars, I have them on my website. If you need any more help. But if you have, if you're looking for a position and you're like, Wendy, I could really use some support, feel free to reach out to me. My cell phone number is right here. My cell phone number is here. My email, this is my direct email. You can find any and all of my information on the website. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and helping yourself find the right office and hopefully the first time. Okay. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I hope you have a good time finding the next job. Thanks so much. Bye.